Well, it's still cold outside, so instead of being at CQ Stadium, let's go across the street to Jones Hill House for some men's lacrosse. A week later than expected, it's the 2026 men's LAC season opener between #1 Maryland and Loyola, an in-state matchup that makes its way to Big Ten Plus. Happy Saturday from the temporary home of the Terrapins here at Jones Hill House alongside Daniel Stein. I'm Ryan Martin with you, and so glad you can be with us for this one. Daniel, you look at this Maryland team right now, a team that lost on Memorial Day weekend a year ago. Now they're the top team in the country going into the season.
Yeah, #1 in the coaches poll, and this is going to be a tough season for Maryland. John Tillman has these guys playing 9 teams in this top 20, but it doesn't matter because this Maryland team is uber talented. They made the national championship in the last 2 seasons, and they're looking to finally bring home the hardware.
You see Cornell at that 4th spot, who just won their first championship in 40 years. Tell me about what we can expect from Maryland after that year.
I mean, the Terps really could have been the national champs last Memorial Day if they didn't run into the freight train known as C.J. Kirst for Cornell. They bring in 5 preseason All-Americans. Some other metrics had as many as 7 All-Americans for Maryland this season. They also bring in 5 transfers, the top transfer class in the entire country. This is a team that is only adding to the talent they already have.
They're adding to the talent, but they've got a great attacker in Eric Spanos. Coming back for his graduate year, he gets the honor and responsibility of wearing the #1 jersey this year.
Yeah, he's not a transfer. He's been here, and he's been dominating with the Terps. 36 goals, 19 assists you see on the screen there, and he's only going to get better. Anyone for Maryland who wears that #1 is going to be a beast on the field. Look for Spanos today.
Spanos, a year ago, had 4 goals against Loyola in an overtime win. It was part of a disappointing year a season ago for the Greyhounds.
Yeah, 3-11 record. I mean, that's just not up to the standard that Charlie Toomey has created here for the Greyhounds. But the good thing is they return 98% of their goal scorers from 2025. Keep in mind, this is a really young Greyhounds team. They had 23 players make their debut last season, and they're only going to get better as this season goes on.
All goals but the 2 that left with the graduation of Remy Reynolds back for 2026. Another guy back for 2026, Matthew Minikis, getting ready for his senior campaign.
Yeah, the definition of a lead attacker, Ryan. 25 goals, 52 points, 27 assists, the team leader in each. What I really like about Minikis, Ryan, is he is a fearless driver. When you see him with his eyes on the cage, he's going to do everything in his power to get that ball in the back of the net. Minikis is a tough kid to stop here on the Greyhounds.
He's got a big test coming up against a Terrapins defense that gave up a Big Ten low 8 goals per game a season ago. We're inside today. Get ready for Greyhounds and Terrapins. It comes up next on Big Ten Plus. Back in the warmth at Jones Hill House across the street where you see in the background CQ Stadium, the traditional home for #1 Maryland men's lacrosse. But Daniel, it's a little bit colder outside, feels like -8, and there's a nice forecast of lacrosse right here.
Yeah, we were walking to JHH this morning, Ryan, and I felt like my face was going to freeze. Yeah. It was just awful weather outside, but thankfully the Terps have this nice indoor venue for us today. And you know, you think of lacrosse as being kind of a cold weather sport, especially early in the season, but it's also a warm weather sport because it goes into Memorial Day, and they made the, I think, correct decision to move this one inside.
There's head coach John Tillman there for Maryland, who noted that his Terrapins team, they practiced outside throughout the week, and then yesterday came into here at Jones Hill House, the traditional practice facility for Maryland football. Maryland lacrosse got to take it over yesterday, today, and here's who the Terps send out.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, dogs all over the board here. And one guy I'm going to be looking for right away, Henry Dodge, the Vermont transfer, a guy who is putting up astronomically good numbers over in the America East Conference, will take that first face-off, presumably for the Terps against the Greyhounds.
And then the Greyhounds, again, a 3-11 Loyola team a season ago. This is what the lineup looks like for Charlie Toomey.
And one guy I really like in this lineup, Ryan, is the sophomore Mason Cook, the Towson native, a guy who just, when he's on, he is on. He scored 5 goals against Holy Cross. He was the first Greyhound to have 10 points in a game since a guy named Pat Spencer did that way back in 2016. It's a young lineup, but it's a talented one.
You knew we were going to mention the former Tewaaraton winner, 2012 national champion in Spencer. He was great offensively. There's Brian Ruppel, the senior starting goalkeeper for Maryland out of Catonsville. Started in 2023. Now with no Logan McNaney, he starts again. After the infraction, it goes to Maryland, a team that's made it to Memorial Day each of the last 2 seasons. What will it be in 2026? Here comes a 2026 Terps team to tell their first chapter. Into the stick of Zach Whittier, one of the 3 guys offensively you're really looking at, Daniel.
Yeah, Whittier, a guy, their leading assist guy from last year, graduate student, very experienced in the midfield.
Here comes Elijah Stoball. Pass it off to Braden Urksa. Whittier, Urksa, Spanos all had multi-goals in that 13-10 loss in the championship to Cornell. Chris Lyons, the Yale transfer, spins the circle in front of Loyola goalkeeper Max Watkinson, Baltimore native, back for his 2nd year starting. Leo Johnson works inside, goes back out. Maryland patient with the clock.
2 Yale guys teaming up there on that last sequence.
Zach Whittier, still no shot. 30 on the clock. Stoball, back to Whittier. Here is the number 1 in Spanos. Right-handed shot and saved by Watkinson. Up for grabs and Whittier taps it, but just momentarily.
Good look for Spanos there. A little bit of shake and bake. Had the opportunity from the outside, but Watkinson, a good goalie in this PL, Patriot League Conference, makes his first save.
Watkinson led that Patriot League Conference that you mentioned with save percentage over 55% a season ago. So here comes the Loyola offense for the first time, going right to left in their road green uniforms. 3-11 a season ago. Not what our 21st year head coach Charlie Toomey wanted. Here's Keenan Everhart. It's a great Terrapins defense. He's guarded by Michael Alexander. That's the Yale transfer, one of 3 Bulldogs to come over for John Tillman.
Yeah, and all 3 of these Yale guys for the Terps now have immense experience. Alexander wasn't really supposed to, frankly, play for the Terps. He thought he would finish his career with Yale. Instead, got injured, had another opportunity.
Inside, a shot, but the save made by Brian Ruppel. And here comes the senior. Ruppel perfect on his first save opportunity of 2026. Now starts it offensively. Into the middle with Schaller. It goes over the net. First one to it will be Leo Johnson. Let's take another look at that save for Brian Ruppel.
I mean, it's a really good look from the Greyhounds, but then Ruppel makes the save, scoops it up, and keeps going. Who does that remind you of? A guy on that Terps bench named Logan McNaney.
Will Musgrove with the shot for Loyola. More on McNaney soon. McNaney, the former goalkeeper for Maryland. Terps team on offense. Here's Johnny Gardner, just a freshman, already seeing time. To Aiden Aiken. Aiken inside, can't get the pass to Urksa. And it's taken away by the Greyhound defense.
Oh, if Urksa scooped that one up, he would have had an open look on goal if he was able to turn himself around.
Chase Gregory brings his long stick midi into the middle. Finds it with a teammate. Gets back to Everhart. Loyola team with now a first-year offensive coordinator bringing over just more creativity and experience.
Yeah, Justin Ward coming over, another Loyola grad, part of this Charlie Toomey staff that really has a lot of Greyhound representation. We asked him about it. He said it really wasn't something he considered, but you know, these guys are going to know the program, they're going to know the guys and have a more close connection.
Ward's giving confidence to guys like Everhart. Here's Everhart, spins the circle. How about that defense though? It comes from Alexander. It's a Terps defense that allowed a Big Ten low 8 goals per game last season. Top 10 in the country, too. Spun to Matthew Minikis, our player to watch. Out to the right side. Again, it's Everhart. The shot and score for Loyola. Greyhounds get on the board first. And it's Keenan Everhart to do so.
Yeah, Everhart's a guy who put up 2 goals in the game versus Maryland last year. That was an ugly game, but Everhart getting a good start here. You see him switching on to Alexander, and he just made that easy dodge to the right side, able to sneak it past Ruppel, and the Greyhounds have a 1-0 lead.
So before it's Henry Dodge, the new face-off transfer from Vermont who goes for Maryland. You see there, Keenan Everhart, just as you mentioned, the lone multi-goal scorer in the overtime loss to Maryland a season ago. Everhart opens the account for Loyola this season. Dodge led collegiate lacrosse and face-off win percentage a year ago. Now he goes 2 for 2. Here come the Terps down 1-0. Left side with George Stamos. It's a Terrapins team that found itself trailing early in that overtime win at Loyola. In fact, Maryland was down 3 goals entering the fourth quarter. Trying to keep it in a slower hold. Here's Chris Lyons, back up top to Spanos. Maryland's leading goal scorer a year ago. Gets it out to Stoba. Tough defense from the Greyhound back line.
Yeah, it takes a lot to knock Spanos down. He's a big guy, 6'5", 220.
Spanos works it right to Zach Whittier. Whittier behind. Up top to Chris Lyons. Ground ball's last touched by Loyola. It's Brady Rogoff, but he keeps it in.
I really like the passing near the crease for the Terps. They just haven't been able to clean up those passes. You almost had that Yale link up there with Johnson on the other end. Not able to get it.
Offensively, a save made by Ruppel. Bruno Chapman has his first shot on goal this season. But Ruppel up for his second save. Stamos goes to a knee. Great defense from Loyola's Chapman after the shot, and he's got the turnover.
Yeah, he put Stamos, the shorty, in a really tough position there, just whacking him with the stick, and he made him lose the ball.
Vinny Trujillo to the right side with Minikis. Two-time All-Patriot League selection. He'll pass that one out. He's really got to be the offensive player that Maryland's keying on. That's why Will Schaller, former All-Americans, on him defensively.
Yeah, and with Maryland, when you got a guy like Will Schaller, you can basically just have him follow around the opposite best attackman, and that's what he's been doing here today.
There's Brady Quinn. Works towards goal line extended. Now behind to Everhart. Loyola's only goal scorer so far today, who's gotten our score to 1-0. The right side with Minikis. There's the matchup against Schaller. Passed around. Quinn works on Kolar. Double D comes from Alexander. Back up top with 12 seconds on the shot clock. Right side shot, and it's off the side of the post. Getting the rebound though. Pass out, and defense from Maryland. Schaller came into the picture after the big miss from Musgrove.
He earns a hand from the crowd as he does. Watch him just fly out of nowhere and deflect that ball away from Mason Cook. That is a big stand for the Terps now, just trying to tie this one up at 1.
Will Schaller, back for his senior year. He was ranked as Inside Lacrosse's #2 player in the country, just behind Joey Spallina of Syracuse. That'll be a great matchup from a week in the future now. Maryland travels to #2 Syracuse after this one. But first, it's set on Loyola. Aiken stops, gets it back to Spanos. He's been keyed on defensively so far by Loyola. Gardner, here's the freshman in his first couple minutes of collegiate lacrosse. Gardner, back up top to Spencer Ford. Work to Leo Johnson. Spanos peeks a shot, righty, and it goes just wide left.
What makes Spanos so hard to guard is he's able to hit those shots from beyond.
Off the whistle, here comes Maryland. Back to Spanos, his shot, and saved again by Watkinson. Rebound and score for Spencer Ford. Well, for a guy who didn't see any action as a freshman a year ago, the talented former 5-star opens the account for Maryland and ties us at 1.
This is just great awareness, and John Tillman, in our conversation with us, talked to us about how high IQ of a player Ford is. Look where he is. He's right at the goal. Spanos gets all the attention on offense. He knocks in the first shot, and look at him celebrating the new #1 with the young Bucks scoring the first goal for Maryland this season.
That's what leadership is really about, right? It doesn't have to be Maryland's leading goal scorer from a year ago and Eric Spanos. He lets his sophomore sink one in and tie us up at 1 between Maryland and Loyola. Back into the middle, it's Jonah Carrier. He saw some time with the graduated Shea Keithler and Sean Crater a season ago. Face off. Still up for grabs, and finally, it's Loyola with it. Miles Halter. Loyola scores first. Maryland and Spencer Ford go next. Halter backwards to Everhart. Great takeaway, though, from Thomas Gravino. Gravino and Alexander fight for it with Maryland. Comes up with the junior Gravino.
That's the type of defense that you want Maryland to play, forcing more of those ground balls. Can't have turnovers in like that in transition.
Pass goes long to James Gardner. That's the cousin of Johnny Gardner, who we had already mentioned. And now it's back with Loyola. It's a Greyhound team that has to be confident with where they're at right now after scoring that first goal. Looked inside, tough defense, and a lost shot. For a moment, it was Mitch Cavey, who might have had a chance on Rupel and Maryland's net.
Yeah, they got him to switch on to the shorty there in Gravino, and he kind of just stumbled through, couldn't keep his balance.
Everhart has drawn that matchup all day so far with Michael Alexander. Everhart is a teammate in Kiwi and passes it around. Inside, the shot, another save made by Rupel. Here come the Terps offensively. Connor Wilbur couldn't get anything for Loyola, so Maryland takes over. Inside, pass, shot, and just wide right. Would have been A.J. Larkin's first of the season. He had 4 a year ago for the big 6'3" LSM.
Yeah, he's sneaky out there, but look at Rupel there. This should have been a goal for Connor Wilbur. Right up there, point blank. Rupel makes the save. Terps going on offense in the other end.
There are the Terps. Last possession, it was a goal for Spencer Ford. Elijah Stovall, left shot. Again, a save made by Watkinson and Loyola.
Tell you what, Ryan, these two goalies are keeping this game from being 4-all right now in the first quarter.
Just tied at 1 after it's been 4 saves apiece now. Halter behind the goal line extended. Opts for a pass with Mason Cook. Cook's second on the team in points this season ago. He's really been clicking with Minikis in the preseason. Cook wraps around, trying to shake off Peter Lake, sophomore in his first year starting. Loyola slows things down. And here comes Cavey. Spin move for Brady Quinn. Over to the right side. Luke Murphy puts on a lefty shot, and he scores. Murphy makes it 2-1 Loyola. And that'll send us to our first timeout. Well, Loyola strikes first, and then we'll strike second here. Murphy makes it 2-1 Greyhounds. Still got about 4 minutes left in this first quarter. Back with you on Big Ten Plus, where Loyola up 2-1 over Maryland, thanks to this goal moments ago from the former Medfield High School Warrior, Luke Murphy.
Well, this is a nice goal from Murphy, Ryan. I mean, he turns around Trey Fleece, who plays good defense initially. Once he works back left the other way, Rupel just isn't positioned correctly, and he's able to slot that one by him. How about Loyola in this first quarter? Walking into a hostile environment here in Maryland and bringing a lead here.
Trey Fleece, a transfer from UMBC, who was second-team All-America East a season ago. Maybe one of those guys still getting acclimated in the first quarter of Game 1. Rupel well out of his cage up to the 30-yard line as here comes Stobaugh.
Didn't get it across the line.
No, this one's back with Loyola.
The name of the game for the Greyhounds here is if they can have these long, sustained possessions and keep Maryland out of their side, that's going to be the key to win for Charlie Toomey. And that's kind of how the game was last year. It was an ugly game, low scoring. Loyola almost was able to eke out a win there. Terps were able to win that one in overtime.
8-7 win, thanks to the game-winning goal from Matthew Keegan, Binghamton transfer, who had a great single season with Maryland. Lose Bryce Ford on the attack, and Daniel Kelly. There's a lot of talent. Maryland also graduated from its runner-up season a year ago.
I mean, it's just a school that constantly is pumping out really good lacrosse players. They're also bringing in grad transfers with a lot of experience, like Keegan last year.
Loyola's Brady West threatens in front of Maryland's Peter Lake. Back up. Loyola with a 1-goal lead and stuffed right in the middle. No chance that Cavey would have gotten a shot attempt there.
Heck of a play by Schaller there. Keeping that one inbounds with a quick dodge going for that loose ball. Now the Terps back on offense.
Here comes Maryland offensively. 1 goal so far today with Spencer Ford. A lot of talent on this attack and a lot of returners with Urksa and Spanos, who has it now. Spanos getting keyed on. You see he's trying to find teammates involved. Teammates like Chris Lyons. Lyons down the left side. Spanos with some space. Throws a defender, lets it rip. But a save by Watkinson. Again, it's a loose ball. So the Terps scored their only goal so far. Gets it to Lyons. That's right in the end line. How about the play to keep it in, too? Trevor Owens keeps it with Maryland.
It's just really scrappy play, but this is the approach on defense for Loyola. They're going to put as many men right in front of the cage as possible so Maryland can't get those point-blank looks.
Now how dangerous this Terp attack can be. Lyons inside, can't find the pass with Johnson. The former Yale teammates a year ago, not on the same page.
Yeah, the chemistry will get there at certain points, but see bringing the boom there by Stobaugh on that last play. But the Terps just need to do a better job of these short passes. They're having no problem creating good looks. They just need to finish the job.
Stobaugh introducing his whole 6'4", 210 self to Loyola. Keeps it with Maryland in the final minute of this first quarter. Loyola up 2-1 on the Terrapins, the #1 team in the country in week 1 of the Coaches Bowl. Terps can hold this for the final possession of the first quarter. Johnson to Stobaugh. Worked around. Urksa. Back to Spanos, and Urksa has it. Up to Stobaugh. Deeks fires, scores! Elijah Stobaugh creates the second chance opportunity for Maryland and then ties us at 2.
You see him nodding his head there, and he is a sneaky good player off this Maryland bench, Ryan. This was a guy who scored 2 goals during championship weekend. You could hear them saying on the sideline, telling Urksa to go. He passes off to Stobaugh. He says, I got this, and ties it up at 2 with 19 ticks left.
Stobaugh, you're exactly right, played his best lacrosse when it mattered most. The goals against Cornell, and then even in the semifinals against Syracuse. For a guy who didn't have any goals as a freshman, and then contributing 10 as a sophomore. Could be some special stuff as a junior now for Stobaugh. Dodge loses that faceoff. Here comes Loyola. Rogoff to the right side with Minikis. Now back up top. 4 seconds on the first quarter clock, and that's how it will run out. Can't find a teammate there in Mason Cook. And after an exciting first quarter to get the 2026 season started, we end the only way it really could have been through that first frame, tied at 2. Maryland with the momentum after the Elijah Stobaugh goal. Oh, these final 3 quarters set up for some fun here on Jones Hill House. Back atop Jones Hill House, where we're staying warm amidst the freezing February. Take a look at the series history between Maryland and Loyola. They're tied at 2, but for a series that goes back 86 years, it's been almost all Terrapins so far.
Yeah, they've been playing each other since World War II, basically, in 1940. At the last game in 2025, it was a tough game, very gritty win for Maryland early in the season, and that game wasn't exactly played in sunshine weather either. It was in some falling rain. Maryland took the dub. This is a heated rivalry between these two teams.
John Tillman, who knows a lot about this rivalry with Loyola, and lost to this Greyhounds team in the 2012 National Championship. There's Charlie Toomey for the Greyhounds. And that was the Greyhounds' only championship coming back 14 years ago. We're knotted up at 2 after the first 15 minutes of play. Most recently, it was Maryland's Elijah Stobaugh who tied us at 2. Loyola has taken each of the first 2 leads in this game.
The Greyhounds have played really well, especially on offense, just these long, sustained possessions. But now Maryland's starting out here. Can the offense wake up after a little bit of a sleepy first quarter?
Chris Lyons, he's looking for his first goal as a Terrapin. Gets into the teeth of the Greyhound defense, but loses possession. Jake Wilson gives it back to Max Watkinson. Now a senior again. He's starting as his second year. It was really trial by fire in his first year as a starter, where he had to face over 530 shots.
Yeah, it was a Loyola season that just was off really wonky throughout, as Maryland will get it off the turnover here.
Toomey telling us this week that he was a goalkeeper himself. He knows that was Watkinson under barrage so often last year, but he's going to be a guy who's going to be under barrage today, and they need a double-digit save performance out of him against the top team in the country, they think.
Yeah, and he was talking about how Watkinson is at his best when he's supporting his teammates when they're not necessarily playing well, and he said that Max operates best during a breakdown, but no breakdown there on that last sequence.
Now that back line has been great so far for Loyola. Here comes the Greyhound offense, though, trying to get momentum after the defensive stop. Brady Quinn had a great end to 2025. The point in each of his last 8 games. He'll pass it off. Over to the most recent Loyola goal scorer in Luke Murphy. Murphy thinks about a second, instead passes it behind goal line extended. Everhart lets it go with the right first one to it is the Greyhounds' Minikis. Musgrove to the side with Cook. Spins it right with Quinn. Everhart, does he have a second for Loyola? No, goes over at the top of the post. Closest one to it will be Loyola with Brady Quinn. You can see that one just didn't get near goal.
He almost took A.J. Larkin's head off, which is hard to do when you're 6'3".
Quinn, again working on Larkin.
Really good defense from A.J.
Yeah. Great save made again by Ruppel. He pulls it down.
He's far out of the crease here, and you got to be careful, but this is just kind of what the Terps goalies have been doing the past couple of years, especially with McNaney, now Ruppel in his footsteps.
Logan McNaney, who's back as the director of player development after being Maryland's all-time leader in career wins. But McNaney, after that 2022 championship, tears his ACL against Loyola in 23, and that was Ruppel, who then came on for the final 13 games of that season. That's where the starter experience and the confidence in Brian Ruppel come in.
Yeah, he's not your average backup. He has a lot of experience, and that's why John Tillman trusted him for this role.
Spanos calls over Spencer Ford. Takes the screen towards the right side. All the way to Matt Higgins. Right side with Johnson, and Leo Johnson's got his first as a Terp. The graduate comes over from Yale and gives Maryland its first lead of the season thanks to a pretty spin move.
Another one of these guys on the towards and watch list last season for Yale. Look at the spin move there with the left hand, puts that one top corner. Johnson was an elite goal scorer in the Ivies, knocking down over 100 for Yale in his 3-year career there. And he's got number 1 now as a Terp and the first lead of the afternoon for Maryland.
Top right cheddar for the former Yale Bulldog and reigning second-team All-Ivy League selection. Led Yale in points last year. It was a down year for Andy Shea and the Bulldogs, but you bring over so much talent with Johnson, Alexander, and Lyons, and goal scoring like you see there. Face-off again controlled by the Terps, and then just sent out of bounds by Owens. Maryland up 3-2 after goals from Ford, Stobaugh, and Johnson. Loyola plays with a deficit for the first time today. Greyhound team that went 3-11 a season ago. First one didn't come until April 5th against Bucknell, and Charlie Toomey and his team, they're ready to right the wrongs from a season ago.
It's a team that returns the majority of their players. We mentioned 98% of their goal scorers back, and it's a historic program. There's really still a lot of confidence in this team, and there really should be with a guy like Toomey who's been there for so long, a championship winner. It's a really talented Loyola roster.
Brady West to the left side with Mitch Cavey. Cavey's been in a box from George Stamos. We're back over to West. 15 seconds on the shot clock. Wrapped around, he's got a teammate in Cook. Mason Cook loses it. And it's going to be picked up by the Terrapins and Peter Lake.
I mean, Will Schaller, again, just making a great play, poking that ball out, and then Lake picking up the ground ball.
Schaller, the unquestioned leader for this Terps defense a year ago. Now, what does his offense do? Whittier behind GLE to Eric Spanos. Spanos, patient, and has Whittier again. The right side with Chris Lyons. Lyons thinks teammate, still 40 on the shot clock. To Spanos, lefty fire. And I get a save again from Watkinson. Couple of shots so far. Eric Spanos can't find his first one yet in game number 1.
And you see the saves comp there. I mean, 13 combined from these two goalies. I got the sense on that last shot that wasn't really the location Eric was looking for there, but that's the look he's looking for. I mean, just wide open, and he'll start hitting those eventually.
It's been Max Watkinson who's came to play so far. Has saved 70% of the first 10 shots he faces. Murphy, the most recent goal scorer for Loyola. Great defense from Schaller. Forces it left. Musgrove, now back to Minikis. Loyola's team captain finds it back with Murphy. His shot just goes wide left against Ruppel. But again, it's been Loyola who's been behind the goal line extended and creates second chance opportunities offensively.
It's very different defensive approaches from these two teams. Loyola's choosing to spread out their offense a little bit more than the Terps are.
Everhart works on Lake. Back around to Musgrove. And Quinn gets by, shoots, and scores. Brady Quinn ties us back up at 3 after just chance by chance, and then Ruppel just can't stop that final one.
Yeah, that's one of these plays that Terps fans are used to seeing Logan McNaney make this save. This is a tough one. I mean, right above the helmet is where Quinn decides to go. Ruppel just can't get his stick up in time, and this is a barn burner forming here at JHH, Ryan. 3-3 halfway through the second quarter.
Brady Quinn had 12 goals, 19 points a season ago. Now the Florida sophomore's got his first in 2026. This already has the feel of what we saw back at Loyola a season ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be, a 20-20 game. The offenses haven't really been there, but it's a close game. It's a rivalry, 2 Maryland programs, and they are going at it here, 3-3.
We already mentioned the 27th meeting between the Terps and the Greyhounds. Last year came down to an overtime game winner by Maryland. Former attacker in Matthew Keegan. That pass to Stobaugh, just not on the same page. That's a game 1 turnover for the Terps.
And you see John Tillman, his staff, just not happy with that. But this is the first game of the season. This was also a game that's been moved inside. There are going to be things that are just not really working the way they're supposed to. But for a team like Maryland, who's number 1, it's still a little unexpected.
Loyola with it now, going up against the Maryland team, and John Tillman, who said not too much changes when they go inside. Again, practicing inside yesterday, but the rest of the week, those Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday practices, all outdoors and across the street at CQ Stadium. Did say it was a little bit harder to hear and communicate with his players. He now has to talk to defensively. Minikis against Schaller. Comes Halter. Still guarded by Alexander. He forces a pass out. Cavey. Left side to Wilbur. Now Brady West. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Greyhounds have to get something off. Minikis inside. And well left off the shot by Cavey. Just great defense overall by Maryland, forcing that shot clock down and clogging almost every passing lane.
Yeah, they got the matchup with Kolar, but unfortunately, he's one of the best short stick D-middies in the country. That was just elite defense from Maryland. Now they go back on offense here. That offense still kind of sputtering in this first half.
It's been sputtering and hasn't puzzled Max Watkinson, the Loyola goalkeeper, yet. He's got 7 saves. Off the turnover, the shot falling down. It's a goal for Mason Cook. He just cooks that one up after the Maryland turnover. And how about Loyola going back up to a 4-3 lead?
And they call the timeout. I mean, but this is just really impressive play from the Greyhounds. Watch what happens. So the Terps commit the infraction here. They can't get it across the midfield line. And now the fast break. He's got his stick up in the air and falling down, throwing that one in what a play by Mason Cook, who was sneaky good last season with 17 goals. He's got number 1 here against the Terps and a Greyhounds lead on Big Ten Plus.
About 2/3 of the way through the second quarter here at Jones Hill House, where it's Loyola who just takes a 4-3 lead after this wild finish for Mason Cook's first goal of the season.
I mean, he was just falling down on that last play. You know, fast breaks are tough sequences in any sport, but the Greyhounds are just, they have come in with this very clear vision of what they want to do on offense, Ryan, and that's these long sustained possessions when they have the ball comfortably, but when they get the ball off a turnover, they are going at breakneck speed, and so far it's giving the Terps a lot of trouble.
And it's Mason Quinn who's back for his sophomore year. He was second on the team in points a year ago, and head coach Charlie Toomey mentioned to us that it's Cook's game who's ever evolving. I don't know if he's thought it would evolve that much in game 1 to pull off a highlight reel goal like that.
It's going to be one of those plays you see on Instagram later, maybe even on the Lacrosse Network, but just a crazy goal there from Cook.
Henry Dodge wins the faceoff again. Vermont transfer who really came in to shore up the inconsistencies Maryland's seen since the graduation of Luke Weirman.
Yeah, and so far Dodge has lived up to that pedigree. I really like the way when he's doing his faceoffs, he's always got that head of the stick on the ground. No matter who he's going up against, just has really good fundamentals, and he wins almost 70% of his faceoffs.
Zach Whittier over to the left side with Leo Johnson. He's got one of the 3 goals so far today. So does Elijah Stobaugh, who works down the left side. Back up to Johnson. Whittier, Stobaugh. To Spanos with some space in front. To Lyons. He bounces it in. Chris Lyons. He's got his first, make it 4 different goal scorers for the Terps, who are just staying right there and tie us at 4.
Lyons, another one of those Yale transfers here, and this looked like another dead-end possession for the Terps. Watch how he dodges to the right. He gets the step on his defender and just bounces that past Watkinson. So far, it hasn't really been the fireballs out of the sticks here getting past these goalies. It's been the bounce shots. It's been more of a finesse game on offense, and this one just keeps going back and forth, Ryan.
A honorable mention preseason All-American by the U.S. Lacrosse magazine. You wonder, with guys like that, as you see Henry Dodge, he's in that same category. When will these 5 transfers let it click? A lot of them, it's been early on. Dodge wins another to give Maryland possession after the tie. 5 transfers for Maryland, 4 of them grad transfers. The lone exception would be Henry Dodge, but he's still a senior. That's the experience that John Tillman was talking to us this week at Spring Sports Media Day.
He talked to us about how it's really more of, you almost can think of it as like making a painting. You're sprinkling in these different colors. You have a lot of freshmen coming in, but you also have these grad transfers. You're not going to have a lot of them, but they play very important roles.
There's one of those transfers in Johnny Gardner. Pass it over to Zach Whittier. Up top to Spanos. Now a senior in Aiden Aiken. Spin move, creates some space. Gardner. It's tied up, keeps the ball in his stick somehow, and then finally the whistle comes against Loyola.
I mean, this has been a physical game to say the least, and Gardner, credit to him for just trying to work his way through the Loyola defense. He initially gets tied up there, and then there's the last hit there from Trujillo to force the whistle.
Gardner might just be a freshman out of Bethesda, but he's unfazed by that one. Gets the called whistle. And this is still tied at 4, but right now it feels like Maryland settling in possibly after that recent goal we just saw from Chris Lyons too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Maryland team that, we asked John Tillman if the #1 ranking had really affected any of his players, and the short answer was no. He said that a ranking is just one guy's opinion, really. But he also told us the longer version of that story, which is, well, he can't really control that some of his guys are, going to be looking on social media and seeing that this is the #1 ranking. This is the Maryland team that people think is the best in the country right now. So at a certain point, that's going to get in somebody's head. But the Terps, you do feel, are starting to settle in. And
it's because he has a really good nucleus of returners, too. One of them, Eric Spanos, who gets the responsibility and honor of wearing #1. Let's take a look at what some past #1s have done. You see Jared Bernhardt there. Logan Wisnauskas, who's the program leader in goals and points. Brett Makar started a good lineage of defensemen, going from Makar to Zapatello. And then Logan McNaney did a little bit of everything as the career wins and saves leader with the Terps. That honor and now goes to Eric Spanos.
And there's a whole host of people on this Terps team that you could have given this #1 to, but the fact that it's Spanos speaks to his role in the team, not only as a goal scorer, but as a leader as well. You could see in all the huddles, he's saying something to his teammates. The #1 just means more for this Maryland lacrosse team. It's not just about what's on the field, it's what's off it too.
It was Spanos who was the featured representative with Will Schaller at that Spring Sports Media Day on Wednesday, saying that he watched all those guys. He watched Ajax and watched Logan to take a page out of their books with their leadership. How about this soaring score right afterwards with Chris Lyons? Give him 2 straight. Maryland makes the most after that timeout.
We're talking about getting a sprinting start out of the timeout. Lyons just says, I'm just going to do it myself. Gets it off of the inbound pass and just takes it all the way to the cage. Let's take a look at the replay. Soaring through, only one hand on the stick is enough for Lyons to put the Terps back on top.
Yeah, this indoor turf might be a little bit softer than what we would have seen across the street at CQ Stadium if we were outside as intended to be. But Chris Lyons becomes your first Maryland multi-goal scorer of 2026. He's got 2 of the Terps' 5. Face-off won by Jonah Carrier, and he works it backwards. Terps have their second lead. It was also a 3-2 advantage for Maryland. Does Maryland have its first multi-goal advantage, though? Eric Spanos looks to do so. Out of Stovall. Left side gets it to Urksa. Works ahead of goal line extended. And up to Spanos. Lyons, he's got the last 2 for the Terps. Slows things down and goes just to the left.
Yeah, it was just a heat check for Lyons there. Tried to go near left corner, just missed it. A loose ball here. Let's see if the Terps can get to it first. It looks like they will.
Great hustle by Johnson. Creates room offensively to Whittier. Loyola's got to get back towards the defending left side. Stovall lets it go, and a great save made with the stick of Max Watkinson.
The Terps had the right approach on offense. They get the ground ball here, but Loyola's all concentrated in the middle. Somebody's got to take a long shot. It's Stovall. How about the save by Watkinson, though? What a play.
Now give it 8 saves for Max Watkinson after he let a couple of consecutive shots go in. both of which were goals by Chris Lyons. And this now, with less than 2 minutes until halftime, starting to look a little bit more what we thought Maryland would be offensively this season. Again, this is still a first half of play in 2026.
Yeah, they're out shooting the Greyhounds 17-15 here, and they got more shots on goal as well. I think one way the Terps are really taking advantage of this game, Ryan, is the face-off game. And that was something that was a little bit of a problem last year. You had kind of a different cast there, but you bring in Dodge now, who's done the bulk of these face-offs, not to discredit what Jonah Carrier has done today as well, but a 9-2 difference. I mean, that has been a difference in this game so far. Terps back to their previous form as really good teams on the faceoff.
And it's the sophomore Carrier and then the transfer in Henry Dodge. They've each only dropped a faceoff each. That's where the 9-2 overall difference comes from. Henry Dodge so far today, 5 of 6 on the faceoff. Jonah Carrier, 4 of 5. See the fans who are atop Jones Hillhouse as we keep it here on Big Ten Plus. It was going to be a really great crowd amidst the cold and what has now turned into -5 degrees. They moved inside and only expected about 500 to 600 of Terp friends and family members. They're still supporting their Terrapins, a team that's made it to Memorial Day last 2 seasons.
I mean, this is a Terps team, Ryan, that played in 2 of the 3 highest attended regular season games of last lacrosse season. That included a game against Notre Dame that was in Atlanta. It wasn't even here in Maryland. They still show out when they play at CQ Stadium. And so there's a very limited amount of people here today, but it's loud. It's a small venue, and the fans are cheering on their Terps.
Just about 3 days ago, they made the decision. They're looking at the temperatures and the wind that had 50-mile-per-hour gusts, and they said, let's move it inside to the football practice facility at Jones Hillhouse. Here are the Terps up 5-4. Last 2 goals from Chris Lyons, who now passes it over to Eric Spanos. Spanos to the right side with Stobaugh. To Lyons, another spin move. Creates some room. But a good double team before the whistle comes. Closest one to it was the captain, Joe Houlihan. We'll step aside for just a moment. Just over 90 seconds left until halftime. Maryland up 5-4. The number 1 Terps looking good now at Jones Hillhouse. Minute 35 left in the first half between number 1 Maryland and Loyola. It's an in-state matchup of 2 teams separated by just about 45 minutes. Maryland scored 2 straight, and so has the Terps' Chris Lyons, the Yale transfer, with his first 2 in 2026. Gardner. Pass over to Johnson. Flags in the air as it's Johnson who lets it fly. An and 1 goal, it would seem, for Johnson. He has a quick word with that nearest defender and Brady Rogoff after the fact.
Well, the flag went up before Johnson even let that one rip, but it's a really nice goal, again, coming around with that left hand, and he lets Rogoff know. Say the goal will stand here to make it 6-4. Take a look at how he comes around. Look at the space he has. Just sneaks that one by Watkinson, and he's letting him know.
The flag flew before. It was Johnson who gets the shot off unassisted. Tillman, of course, waves off the penalty, and it's 6-4 Maryland, the Terps' first 2-goal lead today.
You know what else I liked about that sequence, Ryan, is that, Johnson's an experienced guy. Like all of these transfers are. He scores the goal, he says his message to Rogoff, and then Spanos, number one, the captain, having him move away. Urksa, another one of those experienced guys, not making it any worse than it already was. The goal stands.
Carrier loses just his second faceoff. Here's the Loyola offense for the first time in about 3.5 minutes of gameplay. Greyhounds can have this be the final possession of the second quarter. That was Maryland's circumstance in the first quarter, where they got that goal late to tie us at 2 and to going into the second quarter.
I mean, this is the name of the game. They're going to take this one down to the final second, and you see there it's going to be a timeout before the final seconds tick off. But Loyola, they're taking their time on offense, and they're going to try to draw something up here in the final 42 seconds to just try to not let that Maryland lead get too high.
There's a Loyola team. Again, we go back to nearly a year ago to the day when Loyola beat or just lost to Maryland at home of the Greyhounds 8-7, but Loyola led that game almost the entire way through. It was a 5-2 advantage entering the fourth quarter. This one already more high score.
And Coach Toomey talked to us about this. He was saying how this game one is more of a system game. Those were his words. You know, you're still trying to figure stuff out offensively and defensively, and that works on the Maryland side too. Maybe a lot of Terps fans thought that this game wouldn't be this close in the second quarter, but both these teams here, chances are the starting lineup is not going to look the same way it will in May. You know, this is the first look at these two teams, and for Maryland, this might just be kind of a one-off because they're going to be back in the CQ Stadium soon, and so this game at Jones Hill House, the only second time that Maryland men's lacrosse has played here before, and the last time came in 2022. So, you know, it's just kind of a wonky game, but the one thing that was a constant, Ryan, going into it was that this was going to be a fierce rivalry game, and that's what we've gotten so far.
It's had a little bit of everything so far, including these Maryland goals. First is Chris Lyons with his first goal.
Lyons, another one of those experienced transfers here. He sneaks in with the second one, and this is what you want. Those production from these two guys, Lyons and Johnson, both scored over 100 goals in their time at Yale.
Johnson gets the most recent goal to bring us to 6-4. And you were talking about what Charlie Toomey and Loyola saw out of Maryland. It was Toomey who told us at the end of the day it's game one, and you can only hope and think that what you see on film for a Maryland team that played more games than anyone a season ago, got all the way to game 18 in their year on Memorial Day, and the championship loss to Cornell. Just hoping that what that Terrapin team was, even with the graduations and transfers, Loyola maybe had an idea of what they were looking for here.
And Toomey has a lot of respect for Tillman. These are guys that have been in their respective positions 15-plus years each. And he said that Maryland is one of the best coached teams that they're going to play. And that's been that competitiveness we've seen thus far.
Toomey admitted that Maryland's a team that won't beat itself. Minikis wraps around and gets it left side. The final 10 seconds on the clock. Over just wide left for Cavey. And with 5 seconds, Loyola gets to it. It'll be Halter going up against Lake. That's Alexander, but a pass inside. Can't get to a Greyhound teammate. And we head to halftime with Maryland up 6-4. The Terps up to their early largest lead thanks to 3 consecutive goals, both by Yale transfers. 2 from Chris Lyons and Leo Johnson with the most recent one. We're staying warm inside Jones Hill House and being treated to some great season-opening lacrosse. Maryland up 6-4 on Loyola, but we're only halfway through right here on Big Ten Plus. solo. Come on. Hi, I'm Ryan. I hate Dan. We're back from halftime at the Jones Hill House. It's the temporary home of Maryland men's lacrosse, up 6-4. You look at what's happened so far. Loyola gets out to a 2-1 lead thanks to that first goal from Keenan Everhart. Some good saves early from Max Watkinson. The senior makes one there. It becomes 2-1 with the shot, the acrobatic play that Charlie Toomey loves from Luke Murphy. But then 3 consecutive goals. First 2 by Chris Lyons. That one, then this uber athletic one through the air by the Yale transfer. Then his former Bulldog teammate, and that right there, Leo Johnson. He gets onto the board, talks it a little bit too, gives it a 6-4 lead for Maryland. It's a Terps team that has utilized a lot of different goal scorers. You take a look at the first half stats that we see, very similar in the shot department, but the face-offs been really so far with Maryland. It's Henry Dodge who's come over, been really successful for the former Vermont Catamount, a guy who led the nation in face-off percentage a year ago. And he's really helped create new opportunities, Daniel, for Maryland to then take advantage on the attack.
He has, and Henry Dodge is a guy who was one of those 5 transfers that came over, one of the best transfer classes in the country, and he has really taken this Maryland team to the next level on the faceoff.
So far today, it's Dodge who's taken a majority of the faceoffs for Maryland as he makes his way to the X right now. Dodge so far 5 for 6, and Jonah Carrier 4 for 6. That's Maryland winning 9 of 12 faceoffs today. Dodge does it again, wins the faceoff, and then immediately gets it to Larkin. Here come the Terps. Larkin can't bounce it past Watkinson, but Spanos gets the deflection.
And Spanos just taking his time here. This is a guy who had a quiet first half, but again, with him, it is only a matter of time. You don't score 36 goals in a season without having immense talent, and that's what Spanos has.
Stobaugh's already got one. Finds it over with Braden Urksa. Urksa loses it, and just like Loyola did to start the first half, it's a second half defense coming alive. Minikis finds a cutting Vinny Trujillo, but he can't get it back to Minikis. Thankfully for Loyola, it's Chapman who cleans up the loose ball. And the defense from Will Schaller, that's going to get a flag every time.
I could see what he was trying to do there, just fighting for that ground ball, and Schaller doesn't make mistakes like this very often, but you see there just kind of dangerously putting out that right shoulder. That's going to get called every time, as you said, Ryan.
Shoulder to helmet for Schaller, reigning All-American first-teamer, and truly one of the best, if not the best defender in college lacrosse.
And so now on the Loyola side, that gives you an advantage here. Matthew Minikis has been quiet as well. The Terps and the Greyhounds lead attacker has been pretty sheltered in this first half, but now with Schaller out of the game, you have an opportunity to get Minikis involved.
Terps play man-down defense, although Maryland's up 2 on the scoreboard. Number 1 Terrapins have their first 2-goal lead. Most recently, right before halftime, it was Leo Johnson who had his first of this season. Here is Loyola. Right side couldn't get the pass off to Cavey. Back left side, here's Mason Cook. To Will McGuck. Tip back over. And McCulloch. Patience from Loyola and a good tip from Maryland's A.J. Larkin.
And now you got about 12 seconds until Schaller is out of there. So for Maryland, just got to hold here for 10 seconds.
Terps defense has bent so far during this penalty. McCulloch back up top. Shot from Minikis, but Rupel's ready.
Well, there you go. You try to get Minikis involved with Schaller out of the game, and Rupel makes the save. That's the kind of thing that the Terps need this season. Rupel, their goalie, coming up big. And now Whittier on the other side.
Here's Zach. Goes back to Urksa. Maryland trying to figure out its attack that ranked 42nd nationally in the country a season ago. Stobaugh has it saved by Watkinson. Gets his own rebound. Here back to Spanos. 36 goals, 55 points to lead the Terps last year. He looks for his first now.
He's got the shorty on him.
Spanos puts one on and scores. You know, Spanos was going to get it started somewhere, and he does it to a 7-4 Maryland lead.
I mean, that's the definition of good lacrosse right there. You get the matchup against the short stick D-midi here. Spanos just goes right by him. It's a size mismatch, and he just puts it right past Watkinson. He's inevitable. You knew at some point Spanos was going to pop up, and he does there. Puts Maryland up 7-4.
The reigning two-time honorable mention All-American. He's the unquestioned leader now for Maryland wearing number 1. It means something for the Terps to be distinguished with that responsibility. Something he called a true privilege, though, to see the number 1s before him. And it comes with expectations with goals like that.
Yeah, and for the first couple of quarters, it looked like, it's hard to say if he was nervous, but more nervous than anyone else on this team. But in the third quarter, he came out with a vengeance here, knocked down the first goal, and the Terps continue to add to their lead. But this is another guy who I'm interested to see how he bounces back in the half. Braden Urksa was kept very quiet by this Greyhounds defense. Urksa is a talented player himself. He started every game last season. Let's see if he can get into this game as well.
Spanos' first goal on 6 shots he's had. Now, do they look to get an Urksa involved? And there was 3 multi-goal scorers in the championship to Cornell. Urksa, Whittier, and Spanos are all back. Here's Johnson. Straight away. Leo looks to leverage inside. Now back around to Matt Higgins. Here's the freshman 5-star. Higgins behind to Urksa. To Gardner. Johnny Gardner. Can't get one right directly at Watkinson, and it goes back to the Greyhounds.
It's a good shot from Gardner. He tries to go through the 5-hole there, but Watkinson just closes his knees, able to trap that ball in front of him. Good save. He continues to have a solid game when the Terps have these good looks, point-blank looks. Sometimes he hasn't been there, but when Eric Spanos is coming at you with that much force, it's hard for anyone to stop.
Save number 9 for Max Watkinson. Now his Greyhound offense gets into its second half form. Cook works on Alexander, gets the screen and brings it past and in front of goal line extended. Murphy. He's got a goal to his name, and so does Keenan Everhart. Everhart against Alexander. Back with Musgrove. Lets it fly and bounces it past Brian Rupel. It was Musgrove who ends the dry spell for Loyola. It's what you need to see go past Brian Rupel, who's been great for Maryland.
It's a nice shot, and again, it's been the bouncers that have really given Rupel trouble this afternoon. But Loyola saying, hey, we're not out of this just yet. We're down, but we're not out. It's a nice find right in front of goal. And at the top, he makes the play to make it 7-5.
Correct that too. That's Luke Murphy instead. So that's Murphy's second goal for a guy who knows what it's like to have success playing in Maryland. His brother Owen Murphy. Name sounds familiar. He played over 50 games in the midfield and the attack before graduating the University of Maryland in 2024.
It's just two teams that have so many different connections. We mentioned how there's a Maryland grad on Toomey's staff. That's Sean Cottle. Of course, who has so many connections to this lacrosse program. And it's just two teams very intertwined and with the long series history, as we mentioned earlier.
Johnson back to Whittier, who has Green in front of him. Instead, passes left. Spanos, Deeks, fires, scores. Eric Spanos showing what makes him such a sensational attacker. That's now 2 straight for number 1.
I mean, this is just gross from Spanos. He's a big guy, so he's not going to be the fastest on the team, but he's quick. Watch this quick fake, whoop, right by him, and then the speed on that shot. We mentioned how it's been more of a finesse game lately. Spanos puts a stop to that and says, I'm just going to strike and throw my heater right by you, and it's 8-5.
Got a pretty good fastball, I'd say, from the stick of number 1. A guy who was only in his first year as a full-time attacker last year. He's still learning the position while being one of Maryland's leaders. Came in as a midfielder from Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Great lacrosse at Malvern Prep. The Terps win the faceoff. This is going to be the game changer for Maryland this year. If you can get a goal and then have a guy like Henry Dodge just create another offensive chance with a win at the faceoff X.
But the depth at that faceoff has been big. That was Carrier on that last play. The fact that Tillman has 2 or 3 guys that can be consistently good on faceoffs makes Maryland very dangerous in the faceoff game.
Whittier picks up the loose ball as Carrier, all right, moves for 6 for 8. Stowball. Pass right side with Lyons. Now back to Johnson. Johnson up top to Spanos. He's got space, but he doesn't have the hat trick just yet.
Just overcooked that one a little bit above the cage there, but Spanos again. The thing about him that makes him so difficult, he can score, but he scores quickly and often.
Shot and score from Johnson. Leo Johnson just at 5'9". He's got some zip on the ball and does it for his second goal.
Yeah, Johnson and all these Yale guys have really had their moments in this game. Alexander on defense, Lyons with his pair of goals, and now Johnson adds another. Take a look at the assist there from Urksa. And Johnson, what makes him dangerous is he's so quick and shifty. His ability to change directions, you never really know where he's going to go. You see there dapping him up, his new teammate Urksa with the nice find. And it's 9-5.
And the chemistry, too, that we've seen from Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons coming over from Yale. It's been easy so far. Ooh. Correct that, too. That is Leo Johnson's 3rd of the game. He's the first Terp with a hat trick this season. He's got a 1/3 of Maryland's goal production.
We talked about the rivalry, and we've been talking about it all afternoon, and the Terps have definitely brought the physical element to this game. Braden Urksa just putting a guy on his back there in that last play, hitting him to the ground.
It's a game-high 4-goal lead for Maryland. Loyola is led by a goal on 2 occasions. Spencer Ford brings it right side to Matt Higgins. Those are a couple of underclassmen that could be big for Tillman's attack this year.
Yeah, Higgins, a guy I wasn't sure about how much playing time he was going to get. John Tillman doesn't play a lot of freshmen. He told us about how he played more than he expected last year. But Higgins, a talented player in this game.
Spanos works right side. Back to Johnson. Johnson with the hat trick. This time passes to Ford. He's caught up in the middle. Good defense. But it's Rogoff who can't take it away fully for Loyola. This one's still on the ground. Finally, Jake Wilson comes up with it. And the whistle keeps it with the Greyhounds.
This is really the first Loyola possession we've seen in the last couple of minutes, Ryan, and that's really because Maryland has been so good in the face-off this afternoon. It's really put Loyola at a disadvantage because when they get knocked down, they can't get the ball immediately because you got a guy like Dodge and Carrier out there who keeps getting possession to Maryland.
Maryland's won 14 of 17 face-offs today. Still tons of time with Cavey. Works it left to Mason Cook. Cook to goal line extended and off the maybe leg of Rupel. Keep it with Loyola.
Cook just trying to find that lower corner there, that underhand shot. Just put it wide.
Our time here's Everhart. Everhart scored the first goal in this game, passed it off to another goal scorer in Mason Cook. Cook can't get it to a cutting Minikis. Ruppel gets to it. He's way out of his cage. And Schaller's got to be careful with this pass. He gets it to Larkin.
Oh, he just got that off because he got hit from behind there, but now the Terps fast break on offense.
Transition, here's Larkin, lets it rip, and the LSM fires it home. The big man had 4 goals a season ago, and now he has one in 2026. How about the reaction, too, from A.J. Larkin?
A.J. Larkin is a guy who brings so much energy to this team here, but this was just a really good sequence all the way around. Urksa to Larkin, and then from long range, the snipe. Maryland's in double digits.
It's a give and go. Larkin, Urksa, back to Larkin, and it all leads to a 10-5 Maryland lead here at the Jones Hill House. Back at the Jones Hill House, the former host venue of the likes of Elvis Presley, Aretha Franklin, and the Jackson 5. But when we go out of JHH, take a look around the conference. How about that upset by the Villanova Wildcats in Happy Valley?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of good games today. UNC, not pictured here, got pushed to a narrow victory over Jacksonville. But Penn State, number 7 in the country, losing to Nova. I mean, that is a huge game. You see as well, this was the game that everyone was really looking at here. Rutgers versus Army, 2 ranked teams. Army, the higher ranked team, able to pull out the W. But man, Nova, big upset.
It's a huge upset for Nova. You mentioned Army versus Rutgers in the only ranked matchup on the NCAA lacrosse schedule today. That's because at the bottom right, Hopkins and Georgetown getting canceled because of the conditions in D.C. So a big upset for Villanova, though, already putting the country on notice in week 1. Good face-off won by Dodge. He'll pass it off to Fleece, transfer to transfer, as Dodge dips for the sideline. Ever watch that dodgeball movie? Dodge, dip, duck, dive?
Don't think I've seen that.
That's a good one. We'll have to show. Here's Whittier. He dodges the defender and dips it off to Urksa. Spanos, a couple of goals to his credit thus far. Flashes his eyes with the spin move. Johnson takes the screen from Spanos and works left to Lyons. Terps up to a game-high 5-goal lead. Does Lions have more? Flag comes. This will go against the Loyola defense. They keep it with Maryland on offense. Whittier to up top to Stoba. He zips it in. Second time today, we've seen the flag fly on the Loyola defense, but it doesn't matter. Maryland scores anyways, and so does Elijah Stoba.
Stoba is having himself a game, Ryan. I've been really impressed to just see, just outside of the goal scoring, which he adds another here, just the effort. But going back to this last play, Maryland was completely turning the Greyhounds around on defense. It started with Spanos working his way inside, bullying his defender, and they completely screwed up Loyola's rotations. Stovall was wide open, and from the left side, no chance at saving that one.
Stovall's second. He becomes the fourth Terp with multiple goals today. Maryland just keeps climbing that lead up to 6 now. Give the assist to Leo Johnson. So give him now 3 goals and an assist. That's a game high 4 points. Here's Aiken with it. 4 minutes left in the third quarter. This is where Maryland can start feeling comfortable, taking time off the shot clock to find the best passing lane.
And it's not just that they're winning by 6, it's the way they're winning by 6, Ryan. I think that this was a lot of what we saw in that national championship game against Cornell. Cornell was pulling ahead in spite of the fact that C.J. Kirst was not having a great game. You turn that kind of philosophy over to the Maryland side. Spanos, as he has it here, is not at his 100% peak. We've seen him in moments in today's game, but the fact that the Terps have these other goal scorers gives John Tillman confidence going forward.
They got a goal scorer there. They got a goal scorer in Leo Johnson. Again, we just mentioned it. Yeah, give him 4 goals with the assist. Had an apple on the last one. Gets another goal here. This is just Maryland now having 5 straight goals.
Watch this dodge there. He just goes to the right. Even against the long pole, he just goes right by him. Slots it past Watkinson, who's been really busy back here in the third quarter. But the Terps really putting a lot of these doubters and a lot of these nerves aside here in this third, just running up the score against the Greyhounds.
For the Terps, again, it's another face-off one. Carrier now has it taken away after Maryland scores 2 goals in 48 seconds. Loyola finding itself in a 7-goal hole now. Halter. Up top to space with Luke Murphy. But Murphy, who's got 2 goals to his name, goes wide left, and this one's going to go with Maryland.
Now you see some new players checking into the game. Riley Reese for Maryland with it, just trying to find his pass, and he does. But now, you have that 7-goal advantage. John Tillman can start to bring in some new players into the game.
Riley Reese, senior defender, and one of 2 Reese brothers. His younger brother, Brody, is a freshman on the team. Their mom, of course, is the women's lacrosse coach, and Kathy Reese. She had the women's lacrosse team at Syracuse yesterday. A nice little 9-5 win for Maryland over the Orange. Here's Stovall again to Urksa. Urksa still looking for his first point on the season. Correct that pass inside the Lions. Saved by Lions. I should say, first goal of the season for Urksa. He's got a game-high 3 assists. He's been the facilitator today.
Yeah, and Urksa's a guy who he played up top, but he can also play in the midfield as well. And so he's been slow near the goal, and I think that's just something that will come with playing more this season. After all, it is the first game, but Urksa, a really good distributor as well.
Urksa had 15 assists, 35 goals a season ago for his 48 points. Once upon a time, the Big Ten Freshman of the Year back in 2023. He was the first Terp to take that honor. There's Loyola, who's slowly seen this game slip away from it. Minikis to a spin move with Mason Cook. Cook. Behind to Musgrove. Final 20 on this shot clock. Murphy gets the switch. And on comes Trevor Owens. Quinn tries to go near right post. Rupel not fooled. Pass to Owens, can't be controlled. Loose ball goes perfectly to Urksa. Inside, shot and a score again for Leo Johnson. Well, that goal, that loose ball couldn't have gave any more of a favorable Maryland roll. But then the great pass for Urksa to Johnson. It's been Urksa passing and Johnson scoring all afternoon.
Terps scoring in a lot of different ways. This is on a fast break. It starts with Rupel, who goes up to Owens. Watch the play from Spanos right here. Just kind of an indirect pick, leading Urksa to get the clean ground ball pickup, and then over to Johnson using his speed. A really nice team goal from the Terps, who are starting to take control of this one, up by 8.
Johnson's 5th of the 13 goals today for Maryland. The career high for Leo Johnson came 2 years ago against Cornell. That was 6. So Johnson has come alive, especially in the third quarter, where he now has 3 of those 5 goals. Zach Whittier brings it up offensively for the Terrapins in what could be the final possession of the third quarter. Whittier to Johnson. Pass, tries to go behind the back to Spanos, and then Lyons looks to do the same. It goes over the net, and Whittier the closest one to it with 5 seconds on the game clock. Lyons goes behind the back and scores! And now they're looking to find some on the highlight reel, and Chris Lyons does just that.
And these Yale guys are coming over with some swagger. And Lyons, what a way to close out the third quarter. This is just ridiculous. Look at this play. Behind the back, behind his defender's helmet, and he still slots it past. Man, I mean, if this is game 1 for the Terps, the sky is the limit. This game was relatively close going into the start of the second half, and now the Terps have outscored the Greyhounds 8-1 in the third quarter.
Third goal today for Chris Lyons. Maryland's been great to end quarters, and they've been great through their 2 Yale transfers on the attack. 8 of Maryland's 14 goals coming from either Leo Johnson or Chris Lyons. They got it done at Yale. Now they're getting it done at Maryland. Terrapins up 14-5. We got the fourth quarter on deck. Coming to you next. Back at Jones Hill House, where it has been Leo Johnson making himself at home. 5 goals today to lead all goal scorers. Guy who is transferring over from Yale keeps going. It was a sensational season a year ago with the Bulldogs.
He's just picking up right where he left off at Yale, and he scored his goals with some swagger there. The last one the behind-the-back goal. That was his teammate Chris Lyons. But Johnson, 5 goals in a debut in a venue that you weren't even supposed to be playing in. I mean, that's about as good as you can ask for.
6 overall points for Johnson, a guy who just brings in a ton of experience in his 46th collegiate game. He was the number 2 ranked product in the portal. Number 3 was his teammate who's here with Maryland too, and Chris Lyons. Lyons has 3 goals to his name. Johnson with 5. That's exactly the production that John Tillman was looking for in the portal out of bringing those 2 in.
And it's so different from the additions last year because a lot of those grad transfers came from D2 schools, D3, like not Power 4 kind of schools. But then you come in with somebody like Johnson, somebody like Chris Lyons, who are very highly touted grad transfers. You bring the experience and you bring that top-tier talent.
Loyola with it offensively. Good defense, stops the shot from Mason Cook. And for those 2 guys, especially on the attack, and Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons, they had known for over a year that they were going to be at Maryland once those 4 years of Ivy League eligibility ran up for each of them. Right there, it's McGorry, who looked for a dribbler to the far right post. It misses everything, and will still be with Loyola. Everhart wrap around and score. Had that first goal for Loyola to give the Greyhounds a 1-0 lead. Now he makes the score a little bit closer in the 4th with his 2nd score.
It's a nice play by Everhart, who's had a decent game today, but this has been the move that the Greyhounds have been trying to pull all game long. There's the quick wraparound on goal, and they finally take the shot. That's pretty decent defense as well from the Terps, but a better finish from Everhart, and it gets Loyola another goal here in the second half.
You can credit, too, that screen to Miles Halter of Loyola. Got the Maryland defender off just enough to do so. Loyola after the goal. Here's the lone multi-goal scorer for the Greyhounds in Murphy. Back to the right side, working on a couple of reserve defenders for Maryland. Trey Fleece becomes the all-mall defender. Now pass over to Everhart after his goal. He passes it off. Minikis, rare shot, and his first score. He was our player to watch for Loyola. Maryland's contained him so far today, but can't do it on that shot for a 2nd consecutive Greyhound goal.
Yeah, in his 45th career appearance, Minikis finally makes his mark on this game. A nice side-armed left-handed shot there. You knew at some point he was going to get there, just like Spanos. We were talking about him earlier, and Minikis, a guy who is one of the key leaders on this team, finally gets open and knocks one in.
It's Minikis' first point today, too, for the 2-time All-Patriot League selection. He was All-Patriot, too, in the preseason. Minikis brings over a toughness that a few of these Loyola guys come. Being from Darien, Connecticut, Darien High School, where that Blue Wave program under Jeff Braymeyer has been nationally ranked as one of the top high school programs in the country.
Yeah, that was something that stood out when we talked to Coach Toomey about that. He just said there's just a different confidence in the group of guys that come from Darien.
A couple of Blue Waves in Minikis. Jake Wilson, we see the junior defender often. All part of a Loyola team that trails by 7, but have scored 2 straight and make it 3. Mason Cook gets back on the board. And with over 12.5 minutes to go, still a big deficit for the Greyhounds, but that's 3 straight for the visitors.
Yeah, this game is far from over for sure. And I think the Terps kind of just fallen asleep on defense, which is pretty uncharacteristic. You see how open Cook gets there, just right behind the last line of defense. And if you're Rupel, I mean, you got to be asking your defenders, where'd you guys go? Rupel's had a good game, but those Terps defenders have to stay in front of the Greyhounds.
caught up there between Maryland's Dodge and the Loyola face-off specialist in Carson Hall. Maryland still with it after those 3 consecutive goals by Loyola. Come from 3 different sources. It was Everhart, Minikis, and that last one he corrected. Bill Ward to Brady West. Down the right side, freshman Gardner. Spin move, and a score. First goal in game number 1 for Johnny Gardner, and the Gonzaga product adds his name to the scoring sheet.
Yeah, Johnny Gardner, another guy who is super highly recruited, a 5-star top 10 in his class. Look at the spin move he puts on his defender there, brings the stick around and just slots it right by Watkinson. Nice job by Maryland there. They face adversity and they punch right back, bring that lead up to 7. And Gardner, for him, congratulations, first career goal.
Now the 7th different goal scorer for Maryland today. We mentioned the 5 goals for Leo Johnson and 3 for Chris Lyons. For Gardner's always got to be an exciting feeling. Bethesda, Maryland native, who's cousins with James Gardner, also on this team that we mentioned earlier. Maryland wins the faceoff again. After winning it, here's Carrier. He passes it off and he'll start the long jog back. Urksa. It's Destobaugh who comes on for the Maryland attack, just as Chris Lyons does. Left side with Lyons. He's got a hat trick today. Now fires for a 4th. Terps back up to doubling their in-state opponent in Loyola at 16-8.
I think this Greyhound defense just starting to get a little tired. Watkinson back there. Look at the finish here from Lyons. It's been that lower corner. We haven't really seen a ton of these goals go top bins. Lyons in this game adds another. What else can you say? I mean, John Tillman, exceptional job bringing in these transfers. And these 3 Yale guys have been really solid for the Terps here today. 9
of the 16 goals today have come from that pair of Yale attackers that we've mentioned. 5 goals from Leo Johnson, 4 goals for Chris Lyons. Lyons did a pretty good job of just a single coverage there. It was Loyola captain Joe Houlihan who didn't maybe switch on for a double team quick enough to put pressure in Lyons' face. Higgins, the left side. Gets a pass over to John Draley's in the game for the first time. Luca Ward passed it off, another reserve seeing some action in what can be an important 10 minutes if that's what John Tillman decides to do with his personnel. Higgins to Ward. Draley, here's a Silver Spring native behind the net to Johnson. Ward walks goal line extended and passes it back out to Urksa. Higgins tries left. Now goes right. Behind to Johnson. Spanos has space. Johnson bounces inside for Draley, and it's taken away by Loyola. Here comes Vinny Trujillo.
It's really nice defense there from the Greyhounds. They took Spanos out of the equation there. Didn't really give him anywhere to look, and the Terps didn't have a good look on goal.
Minikis, a good pass, but then an even better save for Brian Rupel. He was ready when Bruno Chapman put the shot attempt on. Aitken, right side to Draley. Here's a 4-star making his collegiate debut as a sophomore. Aitken slows things down and finds it with Braden Urksa. Johnson behind to Whittier. Now back up to Urksha. He lets one rip, but it's saved by Watkinson.
Looked like that shot was deflected a little bit. Urksha couldn't get the full force on his stick there.
Loyola. Let's Jacob Sullivan take a shot. It did not trickle in. Rebound still goes to the Greyhounds. Thought maybe that one would have caught in some back net. Final 8.5 in this game. It's a 16-8 lead for number 1 Maryland. Opening its season a week later than expected after its game at Richmond last week got canceled due to the snowstorms. Left side with Murphy. Into the stick of Musgrove. Inside, the pass to Brady Quinn is off target.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there inside as he was being guarded tightly. But no flag in the air, and Terps can take it the other way.
They do just that. It starts off with Schaller. Finds into Higgins as he checks into this game. Maryland setting up its attack with Gardner. What's the biggest thing you've noticed being the differentiator for Maryland's attack today?
I think it's just been how many options there have been, Ryan. It's not Eric Spanos doing everything. It's not Braden Urksha doing everything. It's been the different ways that they've been able to score. I think it sets up Maryland really well for this season.
Gardner. Back to Higgins. Maryland trying out some different sets and plays from Spanos to Ford. That one's well off to the right.
And Spencer Ford is a guy who has 1 goal in this game, but I think could have an even bigger role. And John Tillman admitted that he doesn't really know what Ford is going to do this season. Obviously, he knows he's as talented as they come at the attack position, but the depth of this Maryland team is really something that makes them dangerous.
And it means that guys like Ford, who's the top attacker in last year's high school class, with Johnson setting that one long, top attacker in last year's high school class, number 7 overall prospect, and it leads to no appearances as a freshman. You're right, it's what Tillman was talking about, trying to get him involved and figure out what his role is, especially in February for this Terps attack.
I mean, when you have Spanos and Urksha coming back. You have Whittier in the midfield. You have Johnson and Lyons transferring over. Even a guy like Jack Schultz, who hasn't played today, another key attacker. You have Aiden Aiken, and you got Spencer Ford coming off the bench. There's so many different guys who can put the ball in the back of the net for Maryland, and that's really shown today with 16 goals.
Dangerous play as Watkinson passes it out, and here comes Maryland. The stick of Trevor Owens. The flags fly. And Loyola's going to have to pump the brakes on that potential transition.
Get another look. It might be slashing here as see just right on that left shoulder is where he makes contact with Owens, who goes to the ground. It's been a relatively clean game. We haven't seen that much laundry on the field. We saw Schaller go out for a minute after he committed a penalty, but other than that, these two teams very well coached, and Maryland has just been the difference in this game. Their attack has been over Loyola.
That's what Maryland prides itself on, though, too. It was a Terps team that was the least penalized Big Ten squad a year ago, even though it played a conference most 18 games. 6 minutes and change into this game. Maryland 16, Loyola 8. This one looks like it'll be all Terrapins out of next week's matchup between 1 and 2. Maryland traveling to Syracuse. Spanos. Johnson to Lyons. Fakes the shot and said it was a pass intended for Gardner. Great play by the Loyola captain in Houlihan. He wasn't fooled by that deke.
Yeah, Lyons, I think, could have shot that one, but selflessly he tried to find Gardner right next to the post. But just a dangerous pass kind of going across the Greyhound defense like that.
Maryland unselfish on the attack, and sometimes even to a fault. Minikis backwards to Everhart. Here's Brady West. Pass right to KV. Back to West. Gets by Gravino, and Lake takes it away for the Terps.
Heck of a play there by Lake, a guy who's still pretty young in this defensive team, but John Tillman really thinks he's going to play a bigger role this season.
Gravino. Up ahead. He's got it into the stick of Hamish McPherson. McPherson in after playing 2 games as a sophomore a year ago. McPherson played in the season opening win over Richmond as one of those 2 games. Now looking for a season opening win appearance against Loyola. Ward back out to Ford. He finds bottom left.
I mean, it's Ward to Ford and scored just like that. This is what I'm talking about. Maryland has so many different ways they can beat you. How about the accuracy from Spencer Ford right here? He finds the pass open, brings it across, and then just in the bottom corner. No chance for Watkinson. All Maryland here with 4 minutes to go.
Final 4 minutes and change here at Jones Hill House. We're staying warm amongst the 50 miles per hour wind gusts across the street at CQ Stadium. So from the temporary home of Maryland men's lacrosse, the Terps up 17-8 over in-state rival Loyola. Focused on Loyola now, but it's hard to not look at Friday, Daniel, where all of a sudden the #1 Terps go to the #2 Orange in one of the best matchups of the early season.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We saw Syracuse come to Maryland last season. The Terps took that game, and then the year before. Talk about a memorable game, kind of a controversial ending. Maryland won that one in the Dome over there in Syracuse in overtime, but it doesn't get any easier for Maryland after that because they come home and then face #3 Princeton, then number 6 Notre Dame. It doesn't necessarily get any easier for Loyola either.
It doesn't either. They play 2 Big Ten teams back-to-back on the road, and it was supposed to be a season that started at Georgetown. The #5 Hoyas couldn't host that one, so Loyola plays Maryland, then travels, if you even say travels, being so close to Johns Hopkins to face the Blue Jays. Really interesting one, too, with Syracuse, who picked up a win today over St. Joseph's 20-2. So as all stands, that should still be 1 versus 2. Maryland having a win here, and then Syracuse 2-0 on its season. They got that dome, so you don't have to worry at all about early season games being moved indoors when you're already indoors.
I mean, the stories just write themselves.
Right.
Spanos versus Spallina, the 2 guys in their final years here in college lacrosse. And I mean, Spallina is one of the best players in the country, hyped up to be one of the best for a long time, and he was fantastic last year when the Orange came to play Maryland.
Excited to see that matchup. I'm excited to see Schaller versus Spanos, too. With Will Schaller, you can almost guarantee he's going to be locked up on Joey Spallina, Inside Lacrosse's top player in the sport this year. And And so far it's been Schaller who, whether it was Maryland's win over Syracuse here in College Park a year ago or in the semifinals in Foxborough, it's been Schaller who's had his way with Spallina too, as we think about that one on Friday. Inside, and a good score top right for Hamish McPherson. It's the first career goal from the Toronto native, and McPherson gives the Terps a double-digit advantage.
This is the kind of close scoring that I thought Maryland was going to pull off earlier in this game. You see the pass there from Higgins right on the doorstep. McPherson fired up. His second career goal comes at the end of this one, but just, again, speaking to the depth of this team, so many different goal scorers in this game. It's not one person doing everything, and it's why the Terps are up by double digits.
For Maryland, who had allowed the 3 straight goals for Loyola, well, they've responded with 4 straight of their own. For the Terps, this is a game-high 10-goal lead. And there was some discussion, too, as the ball now into the stick of Ben Abel. He's the junior goalkeeper for Loyola. He replaces the senior Max Watkinson. We were talking with Coach Toomey during the preseason. Of course, this is offensive barrage today for Maryland, but this was still a goalkeeper position he was looking to figure out during the preseason.
Yeah, Abel is a guy who, like Brian Ruppel when Logan McNaney was in cage for the Terps, Abel comes with experience. He played 4 games last season, and being that junior, you know, it's not the same as what Maryland has with Ruppel and then the backup being a freshman. It's 2 experienced goalies for Loyola.
Kyle McCarthy for Loyola. It's Dominicus. Loose ball leads to a score for the Greyhounds. It's Henry Haberman. He scored against Maryland a season ago and now does so in back-to-back years.
Yeah, Haberman, a guy who didn't start today. You kind of thought he was going to play a bigger role in today's game. He finally gets involved, just picking it up right outside Ruppel there and knocking it in before he goes to the ground.
Haberman started all 14 games a season ago for Loyola. Again, it was a 3-11 Greyhound squad a season ago who didn't pick up its first win until April 5th, but they had 19 freshmen, added some transfers, and the locker room is still going through the growing pains of understanding its culture and how to play collectively.
And they have really no better coach to lead this young team than a guy like Charlie Toomey, who's been here 21 years.
There is a new goalkeeper into the game for Maryland, and it was him who allowed the goal. Tyler Correa, the sophomore out of Ohio, makes his first career appearance. He did allow that goal to Haberman. So the day is done too for Brian Ruppel. But right now Maryland has it offensively with a strike. And that comes courtesy of Sisto Averno. Owing Mills native becomes another Terp with his first career goal and his first career appearance. And you can see what the starters are thinking right now for Maryland on the sidelines. That's Eric Spanos who's celebrating.
I mean, Averno just finds an open lane and knocks that one through. This is a guy who, again, hasn't played, scores his first career goal. What a way for the Terps to open up this season. All these expectations, we talked about at the beginning of the game, how maybe the #1 preseason ranking might be getting in the head of some of these Terps, but man, they have brushed that off like it's nothing, and they have taken on a tough Loyola team, and they're dismantling them.
On the face-off, there is the senior Mitchell Lloyd, and only his 7th appearance. If Maryland wants to be backed by its depth, though, all of a sudden these kind of in-game opportunities for some depth pieces to see the field become important.
And it also takes a load off of the starting lineup, too. When Maryland played so many close games last year, there's going to be a certain amount of fatigue that sets in. But the more a guy like Eric Spanos can sit, the better the Terps would be long-term for his health.
A goal for Mason Cook with Loyola. That'll be his 3rd and bring the Greyhounds into double digits off the hat trick by the sophomore from Towson.
Cook again here with just that crafty finish, ends up going through the legs of Correa. Cook, a guy who Toomey mentioned how really wants to have a bigger role this season, and so far he's had a good game today.
Final 75 seconds. As that faceoff is controlled by Loyola. It's a Greyhound team that will move to 0-1 on the season ahead of that matchup at Johns Hopkins a week from today. But in that final minute, Daniel, what's going to be a sizable Maryland win. Now you get to turn that attention to 1 versus 2 at Syracuse on Friday. It could be one of the games of the year in collegiate lacrosse, and we get it in the second week of February.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland lived up to the expectations this week, and now both teams are going to have to fill out their expectations next week. It's two really good teams, superbly well coached. John Tillman on Maryland and Gary Gate in Syracuse. And boy, it's going to be a fun one from Syracuse next week.
It was Maryland who picked up a comfortable 14-8 win over the Orange at Gillette Stadium in last year's Final Four. It's a Terps team that was 2-0 against the Orange last year. And you remember that matchup almost a year ago to the day it'll be from when they play on Friday. That was an 11-7 win over Syracuse at CQ Stadium. Well, that's going to be a lot of storylines, excitement. Again, just going to be probably the best lacrosse you can think of on February 13th.
And last year's game, another one of those kind of weird weather games. You had all of the rain coming down and no snow, but the Terps got it done, and they get it done today in spite of the snow indoors.
It's a 19-10 win. John Tillman giving some warranted fist bumps. He starts his 16th year as head coach, 1-0, as Maryland wins its 33rd consecutive season opener, a streak the Terps have had since 1993.
I mean, this was exactly what you wanted for the Terps. It didn't get there as quickly as the Terps thought it might, and through the first 2 quarters, Loyola hung around, but by the end, Maryland proved why they were number 1, and they get a huge boost of momentum going into, I would say, a tough part of their schedule. Their entire schedule is tough, but they have arguably their toughest matchup next week against number 2 Syracuse.
The Terps team that's made it to Memorial Day each of the last 2 seasons. They got 4 months and change to go until then, but this was the first step, and it was a great one for Maryland. 19-10 win over Loyola. The star, that man right there, Leo Johnson, having 5 goals. But the star, it's you too. We appreciate you tuning into our coverage